Problems faced by the ocean. The ocean covers about 70% of Earth's surface. It's home to up to 80% of all life on Earth. For the smooth functioning of all the natural ecosystems, nothing matters more than maintaining the integrity of ocean systems. It plays an integral part in all the ecological cycles: the water, carbon, nutrient, nitrogen, and even the rock cycle. Marine life takes up carbon. They sequester carbon when they sink to the bottom of the ocean. The ocean is the biggest carbon sink on the planet. More importantly, the ocean soaks up energy heat and distributes it more evenly throughout the Earth. The oceans and seas are in grave danger today. Our human activities have led to these multiple, probably irreversible problems for the oceans. Ocean acidification. When human activities such as burning fossil fuels release carbon dioxide (CO2) into the atmosphere, most of it collects in the atmosphere and creates a blanket around the planet, warming its temperature. But some 30% of this CO2 dissolves into seawater, where it doesn't remain as floating CO2 molecules. A series of chemical changes break down the CO2 molecules and recombine them with others. When water H2O and CO2 mix, they combine to form carbonic acid H2CO3, lowering the pH, causing ocean acidification. This highly affects calcifying organisms like oysters and corals, who have hard shells and skeletons on the outside. The lack of calcium and carbonate available in the water due to them combining with CO2 leaves fewer carbonate ions available for the organisms to build and maintain their shells, skeletons, and other calcium carbonate structures. Hence, they begin to dissolve. Changes in the ocean's chemical composition also affect the behavior of non-calcifying organisms. The ability of some fish, like clownfish, to detect predators is decreased. However, algae and seagrasses benefit from higher CO2 conditions in the ocean, as they require CO2 for photosynthesis just like plants on land. The changes in the number of these species cause an imbalance in the food chain of the marine ecosystem. Ocean warming. Since the beginning of the Industrial Revolution a few hundred years ago, humans have burned massive amounts of fossil fuels, cut down huge amounts of trees, and undertaken many other activities that pump heat, trapping carbon dioxide into Earth's atmosphere. In response, the planet has warmed up. Most of the rest of the trapped heat has been absorbed into the planet's vast and enormous oceans. As water takes much more energy to heat up than air, it gets hotter than the air. The uppermost part of the ocean, down to about 2,300 feet, has absorbed the bulk of the extra heat, warming up the fastest. The bottom few thousand feet of the ocean are not immune. They've sucked up on the third of that excess warmth. Most ocean dwellers, from plankton to fish to whales, live in the upper section of the ocean. These animals face very high risks from increasing temperatures, including high levels of mortalities, loss of breeding grounds, and mass movements as species search for favorable environmental conditions. Ocean warming makes stronger storms. Scientists predict that warmer oceans will make storms like hurricanes and tropical cyclones more intense in the future, increasing the likelihood that they'll reach Category 4 or 5, speeding up the rate at which they intensify, and increasing the likelihood that they'll release enormous volumes of rain. Furthermore, due to thermal expansion, as the oceans heat up, they expand, meaning warm water takes up more space than cool water, which adds to the already rising sea levels because of global warming, melting glaciers. The rising temperatures coupled with ocean acidification affect marine species and ecosystems, and consequently, the fundamental benefits humans derive from the ocean, threatening food security, increasing the prevalence of diseases, and causing more extreme weather events, and the loss of coastal protection. Garbage patch. It has become common to see animals washing up with their stomachs filled with plastic. Plastic is invading every last corner of the world's seas. with huge floating garbage patches accumulating in the middle of the ocean, like the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. The Great Pacific Garbage Patch is the largest of the 5 offshore plastic accumulation zones in the world's oceans. It is located halfway between Hawaii and California. It is estimated to have over 150 million tons of waste, and it has a surface area of 1.6 million square kilometers, an area 3 times the size of France. Tons of plastic are entering the ocean each year from rivers. As most plastics are less dense than water, they do not sink. The stronger, more buoyant plastics show resilience in the marine environment, allowing them to be transported over extended distances. They persist at the sea surface as they make their way offshore, transported by converging currents and finally accumulating in the patch. Once these plastics enter the patch, they are unlikely to leave the area until they degrade into smaller microplastics under the effects of the sun, waves, and marine life. As more and more plastics are discarded into the environment, microplastic concentration in the Great Pacific Garbage Patch will only continue to increase. As plastic breaks down into smaller and smaller pieces known as microplastics, it is seeping into every living creature in the ocean. These creatures keep the entire ocean alive. When dolphins and whales return to the surface to breathe, they fertilize tiny marine plants in the ocean called phytoplankton, which every year absorb 4 times the amount of carbon dioxide than the Amazon rainforest does, and generates up to 85% of the oxygen we breathe. So, protecting these animals means protecting the entire planet. Hence, if these creatures die, the ocean dies, and if the ocean dies, so do we. As plastic breaks down into smaller and smaller pieces known as microplastics, it is seeping into every living creature in the ocean. These creatures keep the entire ocean alive. When dolphins and whales return to the surface to breathe, they fertilize tiny marine plants in the ocean called phytoplankton, which every year absorb 4 times the amount of carbon dioxide than the Amazon rainforest does, and generates up to 85% of the oxygen we breathe. So, protecting these animals means protecting the entire planet. Hence, if these creatures die, the ocean dies, and if the ocean dies, so do we. Fishing. Another great problem the oceans are facing is a mammoth called commercial fishing. Its mass scale allows them to catch 2.7 trillion fish every year. That's 5 million killed every minute. This has led to global fish populations plummeting to near extinction. To fully understand the gravity of this problem and its impact on marine ecosystems, one needs to understand the role of fish in the world. Sharks, whales, and dolphins are apex predators, so they are at the very top of the food chain. They are what we can call level 1. They eat level 2. They eat the poor, the sick, the weak of level 2. But when you take away level 1, level 2 then overpopulates, and level 2 eats level 3. So, they'll overpopulate. They'll wipe out their food supply, which is level 3, and then level 2 has got nothing to eat. So, level 2 then disappears and they go extinct. And it carries on down the food chain, down to the smallest organisms. Hence the key to the survival of our oceans is to keep the population of each level to an optimum, which the oceans can do by themselves if only we left it alone. Overfishing and overfishing-related waste issues such as bycatch, unethical fish farming, bottom trawling, large amounts of waste from the industry are very serious and need attention. Are overlooked. They are disrupting the ocean systems in irreversible ways. The interconnectedness between all these problems is clear. The root of all these problems is clear. The humans. The Earth system is so perfect and resilient that all it takes to help the functioning of the most important and interconnected system of the world is to simply not interfere. We need to understand our role as small living things on Earth compared to the vast oceans.